Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, scholars and dignitaries, welcome to another episode. Welcome to my world. So there are about 1 million sworn full and part-time law enforcement officers in America at the level of state, county, and local police, and that probably doesn't include all the federal police, the marshals, environmental and conservation officers, housing authority, transit authority, harbor police, university police, and so on. So I have to tell you, we have a fascination with superheroes, people like Superman or Iron Man, because of their courage and willingness to place themselves in harm's way to help someone in need. That's a great and admirable virtue across the world, and it actually is part of the superhero mantra of truth, justice, and the American way. But the primary difference is that we don't have superheroes, and what we do have, our police, don't have superpowers. They are regular people who dedicate themselves to, quote, serve and protect, and are willing to place themselves in harm's way each and every day to help out the general public, not politicians, not corporate businessmen, but the average Joe and Jill on the street. They are our boys in blue, and they're to be admired and respected and thanked for their service and their integrity by each and every one of us. Each and every day they go out onto the streets, sometimes the mean streets, the crime-infested neighborhoods, the places where the common citizen fears to walk, and they perform their job with a 99% efficiency and approval rating. They are the real superheroes themselves, just regular Joes and Jills. They wanted to make a difference in their community. They wanted to improve society. They wanted to help us all the best way they could. Most of them, since the time they were children, looked up to the police with great admiration, and they themselves wanted to grow up to serve and protect. Myself? Well, I've had at least a dozen personal interactions with the police over the years. The first time there was a burglary in my apartment building, and the police came to my apartment to question me. Now, I took them at their word that they were only checking to see if I had any information that could help solve the case, but honestly, I knew they were also checking to see if I was suspicious or could have been involved. In another case, the police were investigating a nearby homicide, and in this case, they came to my apartment to interview my roommate, who was a friend of the victims. And again, I was also interviewed, just as a matter of fact. Another time, a police officer came to my home and spoke to me about an incident in our neighborhood that had nothing at all to do with us. It was nighttime, and yes, he had the wrong house, and he did not have a search warrant, but he still deserved respect and decency, so I invited him in so we could discuss the particulars in the comfort of my home. Once, I was in a car accident, and again, the police officer was helpful and even gave me a ride back home as my car had to be towed away. And one time I was nominated for a post, and I needed to undergo a full state criminal background check and interview, and it was factual, professional, and actually very pleasant. The other times I was stopped were for traffic violations, one time for even going too slow on an expressway, and each time I found the officer to be highly professional, focused, and responsive to the issues. And yes, I received traffic tickets, as I should have. But never once did I experience an officer to be inappropriate in any way, shape, or manner, but never once was I argumentative, rude, vulgar, impolite, disrespectful, challenging, or offensive. Now, those were my personal interactions with police. Professionally, I have had well over 200 contacts with individual officers working to help juveniles, to clean up our local communities, and to stop drug abuse and crime in our neighborhoods. And again, each and every time, I found my contacts with the police to be appropriate, helpful, professional, and even enjoyable. For some reason, in our culture, we only hear about the negative incidents regarding the police, although they are few and far between. From what I have seen and read, as well as my own personal and professional experiences, as far as I'm concerned, the police have a 99% positive rating for professionalism, dedication, and willingness and ability to serve. So, when you put it into proper perspective, what I'm saying is that the police actually do more and have a higher satisfaction rate than lawyers where the client satisfaction rate is only 43%. Then hospitals, where the patient satisfaction rate is only about 50 or 60%. And they certainly command a higher satisfaction rate than politicians, where the approval rate for Congress is currently only 15%. 15%. So lately, a few people have come out to try to force fit a new narrative into government that the police are somehow a socially corrupting force and need to be defunded and decommissioned in lieu of something else like more psychologists to intervene and calm drug affected and violent criminals. But this is a totally wrong hypothesis and is a self sabotaging, self defeating action. In fact, one poll came out and said that over 60% of African American voters want more policing, more tickets, and more arrests in their neighborhoods. They want their neighborhoods, they need their neighborhoods cleaned up and cleaned out. And you hear the same from thousands of senior citizens, from small business owners, and from the most vulnerable in our cities. The law abiding citizens want greater police presence and action, not less. One child reported to his teacher that he has to eat dinner on the floor because they're afraid of bullets being shot through the windows at night. That's the story you hear in the inner city schools every day, but that's not the story you'll hear on the mainstream television news shows. Interesting, isn't it? And since this defunding and resource depletion of the police began, many police departments now only respond to the most serious of crimes, such as rape or murder, and can't properly respond to the multitudes of other crimes, especially the property crimes and assaults. And let's take a look at just one aspect of policing. We don't hear of the heroic actions of the police. They're kept quiet by the media. They aren't newsworthy, but in fact, they are a common everyday occurrence. A general search will show thousands and thousands of examples where law enforcement officers, real heroes, save thousands of lives while on duty, including the lives of infants, babies, and children. Yes, police monitor and assure public safety, the traffic. And yes, police are there to try to stop crime and to enforce the laws written by our legislators. But as important, they saved lives. There was an officer who stepped up and pulled a man from a burning truck, an officer who talked a woman out of jumping off a high rise building, an officer who applied a tourniquet to a shooting victim and prevented his death from the loss of blood. Officers are trained in CPR and the use of AEDs for heart attacks until emergency services can arrive. Others saved numerous overdose victims with Narcan until they could get to the hospital. One officer alone has arrested over 400 drunk and drug drivers, and who knows how many lives he saved and how many permanent injuries and disabilities he prevented. The police rescue children from unspeakable abuse. They routinely are called to intervene in incidents of domestic violence, hopefully before something fatal happens. They conduct drug raids and have saved tens of thousands of lives by getting drugs off the streets and, as well, removing illegal firearms. Police officers who are on patrol routinely discover fires, crimes, and emergencies in progress and often save lives through secondary prevention means. How many lives have been saved? The answer is that police save lives on a daily basis, but they usually do it silently, unknown to others, and usually unappreciated by the community. One patrol officer in a major city estimates that he saves at least one life every month. Now, if you multiply that just by the number of patrol officers and not the administrators or support staff and extrapolate, he estimates that police save some 7 million lives per year. 7 million. And no matter how you estimate, it is at least in the millions. Let me give you a hard number. In the early 1990s, the homicide toll in New York City topped 2,000 victims per year. But the New York City Police Department drove homicide down 86% from 1990 to only 319 victims in 2019. That's tens of thousands of lives saved just in New York and also resulted in a cleaner, safer, and more family friendly and business friendly community. And according to one researcher, most of the lives saved by the suppression of crime have been Black and Hispanic people. And in 2018, the most recent year for which data is available, the New York police recorded the lowest number of shooting incidents where the subjects or perpetrators were shot and killed by the police. Five. Only five in all of New York, and four of those suspects were threatening officers with guns or knives, and the fifth was reported as being armed by bystanders, and he pointed what appeared to be a gun at the responding officers. And note that whenever there is a call that says shots fired or there's an active shooter, everyone runs away from the scene, but police run into it instinctively with backseat consideration for their own personal welfare. And that's going above and beyond the call of duty. Let me give you another example. There were more than 100 kids in a street corner, and they started to beat on a girl about 14 years old. People were walking by and standing clear of the danger. But who ran into the mix? Two police officers. That's who. The two officers placed themselves at risk to help a helpless girl. They may or may not have saved her life. We'll never know. But they probably did save her from a lengthy stay in a hospital. So, besides the millions of lives they save every year, they also help prevent or save tens of millions of other injuries and billions in property damage. Now, as of late, the police have been vilified across the media platforms. There was just one example on a national network that I shall not name that was spreading gossip and slander and unsubstantiated rumors that fed into this false narrative. So, the truth is that there are about 1 million full and part time police officers in America. Each year, there's over 60 million crimes and complaints that the police respond to. And most probably each year, they have over 300 million contacts with the public in the community, in schools, and in businesses. And unfortunately, there are police shootings and fatalities during the commission of crimes. In 2020, there were 432 white people shot and killed by police, and there were 226 black people shot and killed. But you see, that's a very small figure, almost incidental, against the 1 million police investigating some 60 million crimes and complaints and some 300 million public contacts in the course of a year. So the media is part of the problem, the way that they hype up and exaggerate the news and even fabricate it to criticize and defame and to gain some satisfaction and self gratification in their denigration of the police. But did you know that last year there were 106 police officers killed in the line of duty? Did you know that last year there were almost 60,000 assaults committed on police throughout America? And did you know that since inception, there have been over 22,000 police officers killed in the line of duty? It really gives meaning to the phrase, giving my life for my country. Fewer police and depleted funding means longer response times for the major crimes, and fewer resources translates into less ability to respond to the less serious crimes, the vast majority of crimes, like assault or robbery, which underpin and build into the major crimes. And, of course, as we recently found out, the undermining of the authority, power, and resources of the police leads to an increase in violence. Murder has increased in Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, and the other major cities as much as 50% since this vilification has started. And there were increases in assault, burglaries, and looting as well. What I'm trying to say is this. At one point, we were very proud of our police, and we uniformly supported our police as they supported us. I say we should be proud of our law enforcement officers and honor them again. They are highly trained, compassionate, and courageous professionals who stand as the only buffer between us, the common citizens, and incredible levels of murder, rape, robbery, assault, anarchy, riots, drug use, and the worst that society has to offer. And that is reality. Do not let the progressives, do not let the fake media, and do not let social media trick you into believing a false narrative, and do not let the politicians dismantle one of the best law enforcement systems in the world. Our families, our children need our police. We need them to serve and protect. Hey, be safe, be well. Thank a police officer for their service, and may God bless.